Story 1. It is in my room. I didn't wake up when it entered my room. That's the part one can't stop thinking about. Because I'm a light sleeper. Are you? I only found out the next morning, when my phone buzzed with a notification from my sleep tracker. It said, movement detected, 2:14 a.m. Duration, 4 minutes and 32 seconds. I live alone, so before I go any further, let me ask you something. What would you think moved in your room while you were asleep? Nothing about my life is unusual. Small apartment, quiet street, same routine every night. I lock the door, turn off the lights, put my phone face down on the nightstand. I only install the tracker because I sometimes wake up tired, like I've been walking in my sleep. Have you ever woken up exhausted, even though you don't remember moving at all? I checked the footage. At first, I didn't see anything, just my dark bedroom. Still, quiet. Then I slowed it down. That's when I noticed something shift near the door. Not a person, not a shape I could recognize. Just a darkness that didn't belong to any shadow in the room. Tell me, would you stop watching at that point? Or would you keep going? Pause for a second. If you saw something move in your room while you were asleep, would you call someone, delete the footage, or convince yourself it was a glitch? Because I did the last one. The next night, I left everything the same. Same lights, same position, same camera angle. At 2:14 a.m., my phone logged movement again. Same duration, but this time, whatever was stood closer to the bed. Why would it move closer? What do you think it was doing? On the third night, I didn't sleep. I sat up in bed, watching the door. Nothing happened. No movement. No alert. The tracker stayed silent. But the moment my eyes closed, just for a second, movement detected. So let me ask you this. Why does it only appear when I'm not aware of it? I started testing it. I pretended to sleep, held my breath, didn't move. The tracker stayed quiet. Then my body relaxed. Just enough. The alert triggered immediately. It wasn't reacting to motion. It was reacting to sleep. How would something know the exact moment you fall asleep? That's when other things started changing. I woke up facing the wall. Instead of the door, my blanket was folded, neatly, at the foot of the bed. I don't do that. Do you? On the fourth night, I moved the camera. Instead of pointing at the room, I place it on my desk, facing the bed, facing me. The footage doesn't show the room anymore. It shows my face, sleeping, and behind me, something bends down. It doesn't touch me. It just waits. I won't show that part. But tell me honestly, would you want to see it? The tracker says it stayed for 6 minutes. That's longer than before. Why is it staying longer? Is it getting comfortable? Or is it deciding something? Last night, I locked my door. I put a chair under the handle. I told myself I'd stay awake. The tracker still logged movement, but the footage doesn't show it entering. It starts with it already inside, standing beside the bed, watching me breathe. How long do you think it was there? Before the recording started, I woke up at 2:21 a.m. The tracker says the movement ended at 2:20. My door was open. The chair was still under the handle. Something else opened it. And this morning, the tracker logged movement again, at 2:14 a.m. But I wasn't asleep. I was lying still, listening. So now I need to ask you, if it doesn't need me asleep anymore, what changed? If you made it to the end of this story, thank you for staying. If you want more horror stories like this, stories that don't explain everything, like the video and subscribe for more. And leave a comment. Tell me what you think was in the room, because I don't think it's gone. Story 2. Alone in the woods with my nudist partner on a Christmas night. The forest went quiet before we realized we weren't alone. Not slowly, not naturally. One moment there were insects, distant birds, leaves shifting in the wind. And the next moment, nothing. No sound at all. If you've ever been deep in the woods, you know silence isn't normal. Nature fills space. It hates emptiness. So let me ask you something before I go any further. Have you ever been somewhere so quiet that it felt like the world was holding its breath? We weren't lost. That's important. People always assume fear starts with being lost, but it doesn't. Fear starts when the place you trust begins acting like it doesn't recognize you anymore. My partner whispered my name. Not loudly, not urgently, just confused. And when I turned to answer, I saw their face. That's when I knew something had already noticed us. This trip wasn't unusual. We'd done it before, many times. My partner practices nudism. For them, it's about vulnerability, honesty, feeling present in the world without barriers. The forest, they said, was the safest place for it. No judgment, No expectations. Just trees and sky. I stayed dressed. I always did. Someone has to hold on to the illusion of normalcy. The trail was marked. The weather was mild. The air smelled like pine and damp soil. Everything felt peaceful. Have you ever trusted a place simply because it hadn't hurt you yet? It started with footsteps. Not behind us. Not close enough to panic. Just wrong. They didn't match our rhythm. We walked. They walked. We stopped. They stopped. No snapping branches. No rushing movement. Just the soft, deliberate sound of something placing its weight carefully on the forest floor. Where do you think that was? Another hiker? An animal? Or something that didn't want us to know how close it really was? Be honest. Would you call out? Would you announce yourself? Because we didn't. We stood still, listening, hoping the sound would resolve into something normal. It didn't. When we moved again, the footsteps followed. Same distance. Same timing. Not gaining. Not falling back. Like it was pacing us. Like it was learning. Why would something mirror your movement instead of chasing you? What does patience tell you about intent? My partner noticed the ground first. Bare footprints. Longer than mine. Narrower than theirs. Pressed deep into the dirt. Like whoever made them carried more weight than they should have. They let off the trail. Then doubled back. Then vanished. My partner whispered, "Those aren't mine." They weren't mine either. So whose were they? That's when vulnerability stopped being an idea and became a fact. My partner had nothing between their skin and whatever was out there. No shoes. No protection. No sound of mask movement. Every breath they took sounded loud. Every step felt like a mistake. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. Does fear change when you realize you can't defend yourself? We heard breathing. Not ours. Slow. Measured. Close enough to feel intentional. It wasn't hiding. It was letting us know it was there. Waiting. For what? My partner stopped walking. They didn't grab me. Didn't scream. They just froze. And then, very carefully, they said, "Don't look." That's never comforting, is it? Do you trust someone who tells you not to look? Because I didn't. Not completely. Between two trees, deeper in the forest, something stood too upright. Too still. Not moving like an animal. Not breathing like a person. Just present. Watching. The footsteps returned. But now there was more than one. Different rhythms. Different spacing. Encircling. Never stepping on branches. Never disturbing leaves. That's when I realized something worse than being followed. We'd already been surrounded. How long do you think they'd been there before we noticed? We tried to leave. The trail didn't look right anymore. Turns twisted. Landmarks gone. Trees closer together. Light dimmer. It felt like the forest had folded in on itself. Have you ever been somewhere familiar that suddenly felt staged? Like it was rearranged when you weren't looking? We heard my voice. Behind us. Saying my partner's name. I hadn't spoken. If something knows your voice, how long has it been listening? And what else has it learned? My partner stumbled. Not hard. Not dramatic. Just enough. That's all it needed. I turned back, and the forest between us looked deeper than before. Too deep. Like distance had stretched. They were still there. But suddenly, very far away. They didn't scream. That's the worst part. They just stopped responding. The footsteps moved. Slowly. Confident. I ran. I don't remember how long I ran. Only that the forest eventually loosened its grip. Light returned. Sound returned. The road appeared like nothing had happened. People asked questions. Search teams went out. Nothing was found. No footprints. No signs. The forest gave nothing back. That should have been the end. But it wasn't. Because sometimes, at night, I hear breathing outside my window. Measured. Patient. And sometimes, I hear my partner's footsteps. Bare. Familiar. Wrong. So let me ask you something before this ends. If something learns you when you're most vulnerable, do you think it ever really lets you go? If you stayed until the end? Thank you for listening. If you want more long-form horror stories like this, stories about isolation, vulnerability, and what watches from the dark, like the video and subscribe for more. And leave a comment. Tell me what you think was in those woods.